good evening. Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. Please note that the opinions voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network nor our sponsors. Enjoy the shows.
Welcome to the Paranormal Experienced Radio Show with your host, Kat Hobson. We are here to learn all we can about every type of experience within the paranormal. There will be interviews with seasoned investigators of the spiritual realm, including ufologists, cryptozoologists, psychics, mediums, authors, and creators of technology, and others with credible knowledge to share. Together, we will find out what brought these investigators of the unknown into the field and learn what keeps them working so hard in it. I'm interested in learning how these individuals go about their work, and I believe you are too. This program is all about bringing those who are in the field together with our listeners who are interested in what they find. For us, the paranormal is all about working with and supporting each other. We're all here seeking answers to the questions that bother us so. Now, let's get those answers. And enjoy the show.
Good evening. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I am Kat Hobson, the host of Paranormal Experienced Radio, and I am so glad to welcome you. Thank you for joining us. I am very excited about my guest tonight. You know, I find the most interesting people, and this has taken a while to come to fruition. My fault. And this is going to be so much fun for you. Allan Pacheco is the host for the Santa Fe Ghost and History Tours. He is absolutely fantastic at it. The reviews are astounding. Those are private tours, historical tours, ghost tours, the ghost story tour. There's a ghost walk. There's an EVP tour, strange Santa Fe tours, and you know that's got to be fun. There's just everything. Excuse me, the Santa Fe Trail is part of that. And, excuse me, Allan is not only a tour guide, he is a really fantastic author of multiple titles. He is also an actor, SAG and AFTRA. He is into ufology. Obviously, he is from New Mexico. There's a little bit of that happening out there. He is also pretty much into anything metaphysical. I guess you could say that anything anomalous is Allan's bag. So I'm telling you, this is going to be so much fun. Allan Pacheco, welcome to Paranormal Experienced Radio. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Kat. Thank you for such a wonderful introductory. I hope I live up to the billing.
I think that's not going to be any kind of an issue. I have gone through your reviews. I have just really looked at your pictures. I used a lot of them. Thank you very much for allowing it and our promotion. I have had so much fun getting ready for this show. I'm just glad you're here.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Well, I know that you and I have spoken some prior to the show about the actual getting involved in this kind of study and work. Did you have an experience that kind of blew your mind a little, maybe, that put you into the realm of the paranormal?
Well, Kat, I had numerous experiences since I was a child. Uh, 3 years old, 4 years old. And here's one story that I do relate on my tour with when I do talking engagements. For example, if I was there at a crosswalk at 3 years old and with my elder, and we're looking across the street at this intersection, very busy, I'd, for some strange reason, get the feeling to look to my right, and that's where the car accident would happen. And again, how that happened, do not know. Just an urge, look to the right, and there it goes. Going down old Route 66, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm asleep in the passenger seat. I wake on up 30 seconds right before the vehicle in front of us loses all of this clothing and boxes that are strapped into the back of the truck there. In other words, I had a sense that clicks on. Now, mind you, this radar, I'm not one of these phony psychics. When it's off, it's off. But when it does click on, hey, baby, it's there. And with that, with other incidents, eventually by the time I became into adulthood, I finally had to start looking at that. Now, with my background, it was with my elders, they would say that's imagination, that's all kinds of excuses. But eventually, you have to come to grips with it and say, too many things have happened. And that's how I got more involved in this, what I do today.
Well, then, if you have those abilities, you must be a jam-up paranormal tour guide.
Well, I try.
I mean,
Yeah, I guess I'm the only tour guide here. Well, I am the only tour guide that has hands-on experience. In other words, I'm not an armchair tour guide who says this happened and here's the ghost of Jane X. No, when we go to different places here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, you're going to hear the history of this location, and this is going to dovetail into the paranormal story of that location. And then you will get my inside information of what I found out at this place with my numerous investigations. And so at the places that we do go to, you're getting it, from A to Z. Okay, so you say, wow, okay, the history gives us a clue what happened here. Now here's the paranormal story. Now here is what I found out, and here are some Xerox copies of things that have been taken through the decades, either at my investigations or on my tours. And here's what some of the ghostometers or other gadgets have indicated at this place. So yeah, we do go to some places that do rock and roll, and every now and then we do come in contact with something.
really?
Yeah.
Even people that are not prone to that, do they still have their own experiences?
Well, I tell you what, there was this, okay, when it comes to the people that are negative or skeptics or non-believers, every now and then it does happen to one of those people. And so I can't explain it. I don't know what happened, but it did happen. Classic example was this past winter, December, there at the haunted La Posada. The La Posada is a world-class resort here in Santa Fe, but it used to be the mansion of what I term the Al Capone of Wild West days of New Mexico Territory, Abraham Staub. And the central building of this resort used to be the old mansion, and there's all kinds of activity there. Well, we were able to go on up to the murder room or the Jane Eyre room of where the wife of Abraham was locked away for 5 years. A terrible story, but I'm not getting to let me get to the guts of the story here. So we went on in there, and I'm doing this tour, and it's very, very rare that I'm able to get on in there. And one of the people in this small group was very skeptical. And I'm very good to the spirit of this woman who haunts this, basically a wing of where she was locked up upstairs in this mansion, a big bedroom, big foyer, bathroom, etc. And at the end of the tour, we've taken all our pictures. I'm going to be the second to last man on out. I go to the door and I say goodbye to the ghost. I say, "Goodbye, Julia. Thank you very much." And her name was Julia. That was the wife of this Al Capone of the Southwest, Abraham Staub, Julia Staub. And I blow her a kiss. And we leave the room, and the guy that was the most skeptical, he tells this other person, and he can't account for that. He says, after Allan said goodbye to the ghost of Julia, by his ear, he heard a female voice say, "Goodbye."
How fun.
And, yeah. So that's just one of the places that, has activity. And, yeah, so on other places that we've gone to, depending upon, the person's radar or spirituality or lack of spirituality, or maybe has something to do with the anniversary or how full the moon is with the gravity flow and all kinds of stuff there. We've had incidents that, classic example is at some places the batteries will completely drain and not come back to life. At other places, and this is camera batteries, etc., ghostometer batteries, at other places they will come back to life after being dormant at certain locations. Other times we'll have different type of ghostometers, because there's all kinds on out there. There's like the VW Beetle to the Cadillac. I mean, there's all different versions. Some will end on up, pegging on out. Others will have words, sentences, etc. I've even had some times where people have been pushed on my tours. For example, this one girl from New Jersey was pushed into me. This was at a place called, the slang word for it is called Spook Lane, or the Blair Witch Path, after the movie The Blair Witch. And that place is haunted. I've had people tell me they've been touched. I had this one guy, and I guess he played football for the University of Texas, a lineman, back in the early 70s. And at this one location, and this is just not one person that's happened to, he's having a hard time breathing, and he's feeling like he's being choked, and he gets on out of there. And at this one location, that's happened a few times, where for whatever reason, that energy does not like that person and will try to limit the airflow. And that guy, his face did turn red. And mind you, this was at night. So even with flashlights and everything, I say, wow, he ate some hot chili peppers, but no, it was he could not breathe. So yeah,
Wow.
At different places we go to, things have happened, and it can happen during the day or at night, and it's more so at night.
Do you think that's because your senses are so heightened when you're in the dark and you're already a little nervous because you're on a paranormal haunted tour, and so you're kind of open to experiencing that?
Well, that's part of it, but also for whatever reason, the energies of these entities ramp up at night, and the world, according to Allan, and again, too, sometimes I go into this in lectures or on tours, but I might as well tell you here because, and if I get too deep into this, you pull me back. For example, if you were to have a body on a gurney and you put electrocardiogram to it, there's nothing there. You're going to be flatlining. Now,
True.
If you get yourself on the gurney, you're going to see that electrocardiogram going with electricity. Now, the question is where does that electricity go when a person dies? Is that a signature of the soul? We can't explain where that electricity goes. It's in the body, and then once a person is dead, that person is for all intents and purposes, a piece of meat. So I say that with our high-end and sometimes even low-end type of ghost gadgets, you're picking up magnetic or electronic uh, energy. And this is not something phony like Zach Bagans in one of his shows, says, "Oh, dude, I got something," and it's they're faking out the audience with a live wire on the wall. No, we're at places where we cannot explain what we got there, and I'm saying that ghost energy does have that electricity in it. So the farther we go into the evening, the more the world is going to be turning away from the sun, and that's when you're going to be getting less interference. For example, you're in Birmingham, Alabama, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, well, at night, say from midnight onward, you're going to be getting stations from the Panhandle in Florida, from Mississippi, that you wouldn't get during the day, be it AM or FM stations.
That is true. We can get all the way from Cleveland. I used to listen to the Indians.
Okay, and the point being about that is the same thing with ghostly energy. You're going to have less interference, and remember, this is magnetic or electronic energy that some of them do have, and you're able to, track them, trace them with some of your meters, and if it's really strong stuff, you can even move your compass, but that's very, very rare. So that's what I'm saying is when you go farther into the night, you're going to have these energies ramped on up. And it's not, people say, well, these people in the Middle Ages, these people in the Roman times, that was their imagination because of darkness, or that they heard an animal and it became a ghost. No, there's a reason behind why people say that at night hauntings are more prevalent. And again, too, some people, because it's nighttime, their senses go on up. But unfortunately, a lot of Americans are just on, it doesn't matter if it's daytime or nighttime. They're, in essence, the Walking Dead. They just go through life, so it doesn't matter. I mean, their senses are always going to be like on a GE Electric type of line of follow the master.
Well, those are the people that never look up. I have found
never
also.
Or never really, be analytical, or they're going to go along with, let's say, okay, let the government, abolish the Second Amendment, that type of thinking. I mean, they're just never analytical, that type stuff. So with those type of people, it's just, no, you're not going to get too much reaction with them. And then when something does happen with them, wow, what was that? And I say, well, yeah.
It's really sad because they're going to be so shocked. Yeah, you brought up the Second Amendment, but if any amendment goes, they all go. So the whole Bill of Rights will be gone.
Right, but the key is the Second Amendment, because if you lose that one, then
everything
Big
else
Brother
is moot.
You cannot fight back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it that Fidel in Cuba or all these other dictators, what was the first thing they did? Take the weapons away from the people.
Well, you're right, but that's a different topic. So
right.
I try not to go into politics because I know that you were in law school and I'm a paralegal, so we could go for days on this.
Okay.
But, we've only got about a minute until our first break, which is just astounding to me. I want, when we come back, if you would, to talk about some more maybe of the haunted locations that you do your tours on. I think that would be, I've never been to Santa Fe. And I did do some research, but I'm planning to. That I would love it if you could share some of that information with our listeners as well.
Sure.
Okay. Well, we have about 30 seconds, so I'm going to let everybody know that you are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. This is Paranormal Experience Radio with Kat Hobson and my guest, Allan Pacheco. So, you know what? This is fun. We're going to learn so much more. Y'all come back right after this.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experienced Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son? What are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome!
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Paranormal Experience Radio. I hope y'all are having nearly as much fun as I am with this conversation. My guest is Allan Pacheco. He is a ghost hunter in Santa Fe. Well, he's a ghost tour leader as well with the Santa Fe tours, ghost tours. All kinds of tours. He's also a historian of these Santa Fe experiences. It's pretty interesting to get to talk to someone who knows so much about some place that I haven't been yet that I want to see. So thank you very much for your time here with this. And we were talking about, if y'all could just hear the breaks, they're so good. I think I'm going to start recording my breaks and just make up a show of just those someday. Edited, of course. But we were talking about some of the locations that your tour visits in Santa Fe. And there were a couple that I had found that fascinated me that I wanted to get some history on, but I'd like for you to share your favorites.
Well, gosh, there's so many places that are my favorites. I don't know if I can just say, well, I'll go into the places that we talked to about off the air. Okay. And you were interested in the oldest church
Yes.
And the oldest church in the USA is located in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and it's called the San Miguel Mission, the oldest church. And I do different types of tours there, Kat. I do paranormal ghost tours, also do history tours. So this is a combination of both. And that company, Santa Fe Ghost and History Tours, is my company. So I'm able to give people the skinny, not the propaganda, and go into details about what happened here. Now, at this oldest church and around it, there's, well, the history is okay, when the Spaniards got here, they built this church on top of an Indian kiva, and an Indian kiva is going to be a place of worship for invoking, so they're going to bring people into Christianity. They built this church here. Now, here, all through this area of Santa Fe in 1680, there was a tremendous massacre there. And the Spaniards and their Indian allies fought off and eventually were defeated by the attacking Pueblo Indians. And this area has all kinds of activity. Now, on the south side of this building, the San Miguel Mission, and it's on my website, and for those that are listening, go on to type on in Santa Fe Ghost and History Tours, and you're going to get to my website. And on the left-hand side, you'll see all of these little red buttons, and you'll be able to find what I'm talking about here with the ghost tour, etc. Anyway, in this area, there is people through the years, through the decades, or through the centuries, because the year 2000, 1999, and before that, there's been all kinds of sightings, but it's been mainly beams of energy, and you don't see them rarely with the naked eye activity in this area, and you have all kinds of things happen there. And on the other side of this church, you have the oldest house in the USA.
Yes.
And that place has all kinds of activity. Now, when the Spaniards returned in 1692 and they reconquered Santa Fe along with their Indian allies, this place has a history of, there was two brujas, two curanderas, two witches or two medicine women, voodoo women that lived there. And with the records that we still have, going back to Wild West days, now this building has been, from, in essence, a cold water flat during colonial days to real estate offices, curio shops, etc., going back to Wild West USA days. I mean, it was featured in Harper's Bazaar, Harper's Magazine in the 1870s. Well, anyway, this building has all kinds of hauntings there. And again, on the website, go to it, and you will see through the decades all kinds of pictures of from 35 millimeter to digital of what has been taken inside this building. Now, one of the things about this building, inside, every now and then, cameras go dead. Then we come out of this building, the batteries come back to life.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, and that means we've got really good contact, and hopefully somebody's going to have some other batteries and put them on in, and they're going to be able to do something there. At least we'll get something, and we come on out. Now, one of the things about this is that this place, at times, people get like heart palpitations or feel very claustrophobic or like something's around them, and they got to leave right away and get on out of there. And other times, this was, a couple of years ago. Now, I do daytime tours, I do nighttime tours, and I could not account for this. Now, this building is adobe. That's going to be mud brick. And this one guy who, he had a lot of people say, oh, I've got the feel for it, I've got the sense for it. It's a bunch of hot air. But this guy did have the feel for it. We had all kinds of activity happen around him on this one tour, and he says he could not believe it. He says this adobe feels like there's something hot here, like there's a fire on the other side, and of course, skeptics going to say, well, there's going to be a stove on the other side or some type of heating pipe. No, there's nothing on the other side of this adobe wall. Wow. And again, I got a picture of that on the website. And again, too, this building got burnt down in 1680. And so you have, activity galore right around the oldest house, the oldest church. They flank each other. There's going to be a street dividing it. And if you go on up and down that street, it's called East de Vargas, there's all kinds of at times paranormal activity. So that street, if you're going to come to Santa Fe and you're going to do just a ghost investigation, that's one of the places you want to go to. And
cool.
Yeah. Now the other place that you mentioned was going to be, and I guess we can go back to the church in another time, maybe a little bit later on in the show, but I want to get to some of the things you mentioned, and that was Burro Alley. And Burro Alley is to the west of the plaza, West Santa Fe, and at one time that became a parking lot for burros and carts during Wild West days. And in other words, bringing goods down into the plaza area, because you have shops there, could be open air stalls, and of course this is the end of the Santa Fe Trail, so you're bringing goods in basically from the shore of the Mississippi across the plains to Santa Fe. And you're going to have the Bull Switch or other different depots on the outskirts of Santa Fe where you're going to get the prairie schooners parked, and then you're going to bring the goods into town. Now, sometimes you'll bring the schooner on into the plaza area, the central part, the square of the town, but a lot of people like to use the burros, the carts. In other words, it's going to be like a lighter boat unloading a freighter in a bay. So this area became a parking lot. But the place does have all kinds of activity there, and sometimes people do get orbs, do get strange flashes on their camera. There's been, for example, at the end of Burro Alley, to the right of it, that's where in 1880 Santa Fe sheriff was lynched. I mean, that goes to show you just how wild and woolly Santa Fe was for the populace to lynch its own sheriff.
That's a little bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, Santa Fe, you have gunfights breaking out. Yeah, you have gunfights breaking on out. You have all kinds of mayhem. So this place is just chock full with energies and spirits, ghosts, dimensional energy, demonic energy, you name it. It's here in Santa Fe. And you go down this street, go down that street. Well, there's a reason why this happened. Go back into the archives, and there is, the old saying is, where there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah, we got something in the archives. This is what happened, and this is how come we've got energy at this location.
That is fascinating. I find it unusual, to say the least, that a sheriff was lynched. But I think that the overall experiences, people forget that this was a cow town, right? Was it?
Not
so
not the
much?
cow town like Amarillo. This is going to be more. Yeah, you have cattle here. You're going to have mule trains and horses and stuff going back east or coming this way here. But as far as it was a commerce center, in other words, you have all these trails entering and exiting from Santa Fe. This is going to be in other words, a landlocked port. All these trails come in and lead either south or west or to the north, and you have these goods coming in from the east down the Santa Fe Trail. So Santa Fe was this commerce center, so you had all these goods moving on outward. That's what made Santa Fe was the commerce trade here. As far as Chisholm Trail with herds herds of cattle going on up to Dodge City. No, that's not going to be the case. Now you're going to have, ranches and cows, etc., but that's not what made Santa Fe. Santa Fe was all kinds of commerce of
So
goods.
it was just everybody coming. Was it that way from before it was settled, when it was still Native American land? Was it a trade center for them as well?
It's there's different different ruins that have been found, dating back into who knows. Some people are going to say, well, this is going back to the BC days, and there's been settlements here, different pueblos, etc. But that type of trade, if we're talking about, European trade, no, that's not going to exist because they did not have domesticated, well, they didn't have the horse at the time. The horse was a byproduct of the Spaniards coming to the Southwest. So it's going to be a different type of trade. Now, as far as turquoise, in outlying areas and going down to Mexico, that's going to be to the Aztecs. But again, too, that's not going to be like what Santa Fe was during Wild West days, or even in the days of the conquistadors, because you had another trail before Americans or the British or the French were on the East Coast. You had the Spaniards here, and with that you had a trail coming on up called the Camino Real, or the Philly translated is going to be the Royal Highway or the King's Highway, and that's going to be a trail that's going to end at Santa Fe, and from Santa Fe, the supplies and goods are going to be going through New Mexico, and this trail, in essence, technically, is going to be starting at the port city of Veracruz in Mexico, and it's going to go on up and eventually follow the Rio Grande, the river, and then end in Santa Fe. And then with Americans coming in, you have the Santa Fe Trail, and then other trails, beyond that, the Navajo Trail, the Old Spanish Trail, on and on, all these trails leaving Santa Fe. So Santa Fe was this, the center of a wheel of trails, or a half moon of trails.
Well, are those all the trails that are depicted on that monument?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The Santa Fe Trail monument, is that?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Well, yeah, the Santa Fe Trail, go ahead.
No, please, go ahead.
Okay, the Santa Fe Trail monument, that is going to depict only the Santa Fe Trail, and that's a monument that's in the plaza, and this plaza is going to be the town square, and that's where it's at is roughly maybe 30 yards away from where the Santa Fe Trail started or ended, depending on which direction you're going. And that monument was put in place in 1910. So it's going to show the trail coming into town, and a little bit of a map carved into stone, and it's going to show the northern branch of the trail. Now, one of the things about the Santa Fe Trail is it's just not going to be just one trail. It's going to be, in other words, there's going to be different trails flanking it. In other words, the guys coming down the trail were not stupid. They're going to have different routes that they're going to take. Maybe one's going to be 800 yards away from this trail. Another one's going to be another 400 yards, etc. In other words, where they can find water, where they can find good grazing for their animals. So eventually, it's going to narrow on down to one trail on the outskirts of Santa Fe. So it's if you're doing any hiking, or if you're in a low-flying Cessna, you'll see different divots in the ground, and then you're going to see maybe in another area there's 2 trails, or looks like maybe 3 trails. In other words, that's because every couple hundred yards you're going to have the other caravan coming on down, and they want fresh grass and better water, etc. So that's Santa Fe's trail. It's going to be like the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Laos or South Vietnam. It's going to be many different trails flanking each other before it becomes to a head.
Well, that is just so cool. Because we had different kinds of wild days in our past here in Birmingham, and thank goodness it appears that has been resolved. We have done a good job. This community has come together, I believe. But I can't imagine gunslinging in the middle of your town. That is just so weird and bizarre and a little scary. I guess it's kind of like, downtown Chicago now. But
yeah, that's a good analogy. Yes.
But I just find it fascinating. How much of this information is someone able to get, and how long are your tours? When you, on average, I know that they vary, but do you expand on this on the majority of your tours? I know that the history is so fascinating there.
Well, I tell you what, on my tours, they're all private tours. So in other words, when you call me on up or email me and you say, I want a tour, okay, well, I try to tack the tour towards that person or the group leader's interests, because this is your private tour. So, for example, if they say, hey, Allan, I want you to do the Civil War in Santa Fe. I want you to do the Gettysburg of the West. That was a battle that was fought outside of Santa Fe. That's what it's called, the nickname. Or I want you to do more UFOs, or I want you to do this, that. Well, I try to tack the tour towards those interests. Now, I do history tours, and I do ghost tours, paranormal tours. And, of course, with the paranormal tours, it's not going to be just, okay, here is the ghost of Joe Dokes. No, I'm going to give you some history in the background. Now, on the history tour, it's going to be very little paranormal. I'm going to go into the atomic bomb. I'm going to the Russian spies here in Santa Fe because of the Manhattan Project. I'll go into, say, gunslingers if they want Billy the Kid, etc. So I go into different types of, facets of it. And even when people hire me to be a keynote speaker, they say, I want this, I want that. Well, I try to, I'm just not a one-trick pony. I mean, I'll do whichever trail you want to go down and try to make it as interesting as you want. Now, as far as the tours go, I try to go about 2 hours. Sometimes they'll go on over 2 hours, depending upon the questions, and sometimes maybe because of the weather or something, it'll be a little bit under, but usually estimate that it's going to be about 2 hours. And there's different spots of where we kick off depending upon what type of tour it is. And let me just say this here now that we're talking about what I do here, Kat. Let me just say my name of my company on the internet again.
Please do.
And for those that are listening, that's Santa Fe Ghost and History Tours.com, or just Google or Yahoo Al Pacheco tours, ghost tours, and you'll get to my website. And my website's like about 189 different pages.
Yes, it
of
is.
Different
it's
paranormal
massive
history.
And beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that, but we have to get to a break. We will be right back, and y'all just enjoy.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Paranormal Experienced Radio. I'm Kat Hobson, your host, with my guest, Allan Pacheco of the Santa Fe Ghost and History Tours. And if you have not checked this website out yet, you're missing out. There is so much information here, and it's, oddly enough, Santa Fe Ghost and History Tours.com. The pictures alone are wonderful. There's history, there's different appearances that Allan's made. You'll even get to learn about his acting career a bit. And Allan, I think that probably my favorite thing is in all of the pictures, your guests are so happy. I mean, everybody is having a good time. Everyone is enjoying themselves. You're enjoying yourself. Nobody looks like you've shocked them beyond belief and like they're never coming back to Santa Fe. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
On my tours, I try to make it as enjoyable as I can. And one of the things that I learned, I had a lot of bad teachers in elementary school and high school. You don't learn when you're being bored or somebody's just pontificating and, being egotistical. No. On my tours, you can ask as many questions as you want, and we're doing a ghost tour. I say bring your camera. You can, bring it on your phone, or if you got a 35 millimeter, and if you got ghost gadgets, ghostometers, bring them, and you're there to have a good time. And that's what I try to do, because when you're happy, and that's when you learn, and that's when you also have that energy there that you're not going to, it's going to erase that skepticism, and you're going to be open to maybe something there. And some people on my tour, they've got a feeling, and they'll take some pictures, and then this comes on out later. Says, hey, Allan, I didn't see this with the naked eye, but look what I got on my computer from my phone. And I said, that's happened to me before. Always trust your intuition. And again, too, I'll just say this, I say that in junior high and high school, they're going to knock out your intuition from you. But if you can't trust yourself, then who can you trust? So when you got a feeling about something, wheel and take that photo. And who knows what? Most of the time, nothing's going to be there. But sometimes you got something. And, on my tours, we aim to have a good time and entertain.
Well, you do a good job of it, apparently. And
thank you.
I love this website because it is so chock full of things that you wouldn't even relate to Santa Fe. You've got the unsolved murder that you relate to the Black Dahlia.
Right.
And
well, that's
it's just amazing.
Well, in an odd way, it's going to link to Santa Fe, because we do have the Santa Fe Dahlia. Mm-hmm. And the Black Dahlia was this famous murder that happened in Los Angeles in 1947. And this woman, her torso, she was mutilated. And we had something like this happen here in Santa Fe. And again, you have all kinds of different theories about this. Sometimes it's known as the Rosebush murder. And mind you, people that have any information about any of this, be it ghost stories here in Santa Fe or ideas about the Santa Fe Dahlia, and I'll go into that in just a minute, or UFOs or anything like this, well, go to my website, and you can email me. That's SantaFeGhostAndHistoryTours.com, and every now and then I get somebody who's got some new information, and I've been able to go down that path and gather more information and get more pieces to the jigsaw puzzle to try to solve something. Now, as far as the Santa Fe Dahlia goes, there was this rose bush at this man's house in the backyard. There was 8 of them. All 7 of them thrived. Number 8 did not. So he digs a hole in his front yard to transplant the rose bush. So he starts digging into the backyard now to uproot this rose bush, And gosh, I'm going to say about a foot to 18 inches down below, he thinks he hits a big rock. Well, it's not a rock, as he discovers as he digs a little bit further on down. It's a skull.
Oh my
Now,
gosh.
yeah, now the skull, he brings it on in, and he thinks it's going to be maybe Teowa or who knows what Indian skull. And so he does, the Shakespeare not to be being corny inside of his house. And then he goes back after he puts the skull, and shows his wife, puts it onto the shelf, and he goes back to digging on up the rose bush. Well, he goes a little bit further, and there's this gigantic, black, hefty trash bag, and it's all squishy. It's one of these giant ones. Yes, and inside there are the remains of a human being. And underneath that is another trash bag with more human remains. Now, the thing about this is with the Black Dahlia, remember how they mutilated her. For those, her name was Elizabeth Short, very beautiful or striking, like Jane Russell type of look. And her fingertips were gone, all these types of things to mask her identity. And one of the things with her face, she was chopped in half. Her blood had been drained from her body. The the Los Angeles, the Black Dahlia, is that they had like a Joker from the comic books type of incision to where her jaw was, from end to end of where her lips join. In other words, was whoever murdered her going to try to take away the mandible, to take away the teeth, so there would not be any identification there? Now, with this skull in Santa Fe, the Santa Fe Dahlia, you guessed it, they had ended on up taking on out any type of identification, dental records, taking out the mandible, etc. And as far as the digits of this corpse that was put into the plastic bags, all of the fingers were chopped on off. And now this person, this victim, had been buried for many, many years, and now it was just bones and basically human lard in these bags. Now, the thing about this is they tried to say that it was this one guy who had done it, and he went before a jury of his peers. They found him innocent. I've done a great deal of research on this. I was here at the time during the trial. I have my own ideas, and it did not make sense. I could not have found that guy guilty, the guy that they put up on trial. But here's something about this, and getting into the paranormal aspects of it, not being a murder case like Perry Mason. What is the significance, and maybe somebody who's listening knows about this, of having a skull on top of these plastic bags? Now, you say to yourself, these are good size, huge, like industrial size type of baggies. Now, would not the skull be like the first thing that you're going to throw into the hole that you've dug? Why would you have it, so close to the surface? Why over a rose bush? What is the significance of having this skull sitting on top of this plastic bag there? And why would you bury it there at this place? Now, this house was haunted before they found the skull and the plastic bags. It had a terrible, moniker to it. What's some of the slang? The haunted house, the hell house. And this is decades before this find was in the backyard. Now, this house had been sold, resold, rented on out. There were at times that it was vacant. So if anybody has any insight about the significance of cult activity of having this skull placed on top of these bags, what's that all about? And you say to yourself, again, too, of all the places to put this corpse, why would you put it in the backyard? Why not out in the wilds where the coyotes can eat the remains and these are going to be like your wild boars there in Alabama. I mean, they're going to eat anything. There's not going to be any trace of evidence.
Right.
Yeah. But one of the things, too, about this, I'll just say how strong the hauntings were of this place, is that, for example, like, what was it, 70, 71? And this goes to show you how evil the Ouija board is. And anybody's listening, do not use the Ouija board. No, 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 niet, 99, because the Ouija board is going to bring negative energies into that person's house. Well, these people who had the house at the time, the guy who owned it, he was pretty much crippled in his wheelchair, and him and his wife were using the Ouija board, and all of a sudden he was able to have strength, be able to move around. He went after his wife, and he started choking her down, and she was able to get his hands off of her. And in other words, she's saying, well, "Who are you? And if I told you, you couldn't stand it." And then he was going on, "I'm going to bite your tongue off, and you're going to bleed to death," this kind of stuff. This is what was inside that house. And before that, with other people who owned it, for example, this lady, she was, in her early 30s. She came to visit her college friend, and she lived at the house with her father. There was cold spots in the house. This is 1968, and I'm going to say the 4-year-old or maybe the 1.5-year-old daughter of this lady would not go to a certain spot in the backyard of where the rose bush was. So anyway, they found the skull, I'm going to say in 1992, around there, circa 92, and you can see the hauntings going back decades and decades before this. So they're going to try to say that the guy who did this, he lived in the house from 74 to 76, but yet there's all kinds of activity at that house way before that. And in this area where this house is located, you have, one of those, for lack of better words, portals, stargates, where you have a lot of negative energy comes through that area. At one time, when that area was not developed, and this goes back to the 1960s, an area close to that, because of the movie Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston, that area with the teenagers was known as the Forbidden Zone. In other words, there was this bad mojo, and now you got this subdivision there, and have divorces, addictions, suicides, murders, all kinds of things that have happened in this area here. And so that area does have some, some negativity. And every now and then you will find a place somewhere in some state where you do have things just do not compute, and this area is negative. And that's just, I'm going off on a tangent here. You want to get back to the Santa Fe Dahlia, the Black Dahlia. That's the link, because they never were able to identify who this murder victim was. They were able to identify who killed this person. At first they thought it was a male, then they said it was a female. The whole investigation was botched, and just like the Los Angeles, the Black Dahlia, again too, because of corruption and terrible detective work, they were never able to figure out who did in Elizabeth Short. Elizabeth Short, there's different stories about how come she was called the Black Dahlia. She had beautiful black hair, she dressed in black outfits, and supposedly she had, another story is she had a small tattoo of a Black Dahlia flower on her. So that's the significance between the unsolved mystery, how she was the torso murder, and how this person was cut in half too, etc.
Well, that is bizarre but fascinating. We have someone in chat who does a show here as well, and she's always reporting different serial killers and the hauntings that surround them and such as that. So you can bet that she's going to be researching that if she's not already. Okay. So thank you for that information. We are at the top of the hour.
Okay. Gotcha.
And we're going to take our little top of the hour news break. This is a great time to fill up your beer stein, your wine glass, your tea glass, or your coffee mug. So, and she says, yes, she is. But we will be back. You know what? Maybe we'll find a little good news out here today. There's always that chance. Gotta be positive. We'll catch you on the flip side.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. President Trump has lost a bid to keep Congress from seeing his financial records. NPR's Jim Zarroli reports a federal judge today refused to stop banks from turning over information about his finances to two House committees.
The House Financial Services and Intelligence Committees have been looking into foreign influence on the U.S. political process, and they issued subpoenas to Deutsche Bank and Capital One to turn over Trump's bank records. Trump sued to block the subpoenas, but Judge Edgardo Ramos said the subpoenas served legitimate legislative purposes, and he said Trump's effort was unlikely to succeed. Deutsche Bank said it would abide by the court order and turn over the documents. Trump lost a similar bid earlier this week when another federal judge allowed a subpoena of his firm's accounting records to proceed. Jim Zarroli, NPR News, New York.
Testifying before the House Financial Services Committee today, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says he does not know who drafted a confidential Internal Revenue Service memo stating that presidential tax returns must be given to Congress unless the president asserts executive privilege. Mnuchin says he was not aware of the draft memo until reporters made inquiries about it. Mnuchin says he believes he was following the law when he refused to turn over 6 years of President Trump's tax returns upon the request of another House committee. Virginia Governor Ralph Northam's medical school is out with the results of an investigation into a racist photo in Northam's 1984 yearbook page, and the results are inconclusive. As WCVE's Ben Pavier reports, it's still not clear who's in the photo, and Virginia Republicans say the onus is on Northam to provide answers.
The report by an outside law firm says that the passage of time made it hard to pin down the origins of the photo, a snapshot of two people, one in blackface and another in a KKK robe. The report also does not confirm or disprove the Democratic governor's claim that he didn't select the image. Either way, Eastern Virginia Medical School knew about it for years. The school's president, Richard Homan, is defending the decision to keep it quiet.
We did not want to enter any opportunity to have that photo enter the press or provide a political process that we're dealing with today, frankly.
Governor Northam initially apologized for appearing in the photo, but has since repeatedly denied being in it and has defied calls to resign. For NPR News, I'm Ben Pavier in Richmond.
The agency in charge of enforcing U.S. labor law is asking workers at Volkswagen's plant in Chattanooga, Tennessee, to refile a petition for a union election after having dismissed an earlier one. The United Auto Workers Union says the decision by the National Labor Relations Board comes a day after 3 Democratic senators urged the German automaker's U.S. unit to stop delaying a vote at the assembly plant. Volkswagen was successful in putting off a union vote by 1,700 workers at the plant earlier this month. On Wall Street, the Dow closed down 100 points. You're listening to NPR. Attorney Michael Avenatti is now facing charges of taking money from his former client, adult film actress Stormy Daniels. The allegations against the lawyer were revealed in court documents filed today in New York. Federal prosecutors contend that Avenatti took money that Daniels was supposed to get in a book deal. While not named specifically in the court filing, details of the case make it clear she was the client involved. Avenatti rose to fame representing Daniels when she sued to be released from a non-disclosure agreement involving an alleged sexual liaison she had with Donald Trump years ago. It's going to take more time to put Harriet Tubman's face on the $20 bill. NPR Scott Horsley reports Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin told lawmakers today the currency overhaul will have to wait until the middle of the next decade.
Mnuchin's predecessor, Jack Lew, announced 3 years ago that Harriet Tubman would replace former President Andrew Jackson as the face of the popular $20 bill. The redesign was to have been unveiled next year. But President Trump, who admires Jackson, has resisted that plan, and Mnuchin told lawmakers the monetary makeover has been postponed, so priority can be given to anti-counterfeiting measures on the $5 and $10 notes. He says a final decision on the $20 bill's design will be left to some future secretary.
The currency timeline will be most likely 2026, which even in the most optimistic scenarios is probably beyond my term.
Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire has introduced a bill that would speed up that process. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Crude oil futures prices closed lower. Oil down $1.71 a barrel to $61.42 a barrel in New York. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News in Washington.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I'm Kat Hobson, your host here on Paranormal Experienced Radio. I am so pleased to be welcoming back for our second hour Allan Pacheco. He is Santa Fe Ghost and History Tours. The website is santafeghostandhistorytours.com, and I'm going to tell you, you're going to find a lot more than ghosts when you visit this webpage. He is an actor. He is SAG and AFTRA, and he's fascinating. He's into everything anomalous that has ever happened in or around Santa Fe, as well as most of the rest of the world. The webpage includes things on UFOs relevant to, the Foo Fighters, for one, combat abductions. It's just UFO photos and video, and there's also a history of UFOs in that area. He includes the experience that we were just discussing with the rosebush dahlia. And Allan, you had said that you had something that you wanted to expand on relevant to that.
Yeah. For example, this person who studies serial killers or has information on this here, we talked about that skull that was found and the body remains there at this house in Santa Fe. Now, again, the geography has been altered considerably since the 1960s, and as they were altering it to make new subdivisions in that era and then later on, there used to be this large gully or arroyo. At one time, it used to flow water, then eventually hook up to the Santa Fe River, the Rio Grande. Not anymore, but down this arroyo that was gully, large gully that was used to be behind this house or flank this house where the Santa Fe Dahlia, the Rosebush murder, occurred. You go down, I'm going to say, maybe a mile to 3/4 mile, and there in, July 5th, 1968, they found another skull. And again, this skull had trauma to it. It had been hit with something in the head, maybe a shovel, who knows what, and it had some type of chemical reaction to it to burn off the hair, the scalp, etc. The other skull had some type of chemical put on it. And again, too, what are the odds with, I want to say at the maximum 1 mile with distance to each other, for people to find two skulls, maybe it was 3/4 of a mile, on this artery of a gully where you're going to find no mandible, no information, and that there. And again, too, with somebody putting quicklime or whatever on this. So you have this in this area. I think, that's kind of like, coincidences do happen, but it's rare for that to happen. And there's other types of things that are linked to Santa Fe through the ages, with murders that are linked to one another, serial killers, etc. And back in the 1960s, Santa Fe was, again, this is going to go into conspiracy. We won't do that. It's going to get some Charlie Manson and orange.
Oh, I'm fine with that. I have interviewed recently David Oman, who
owns
the Oman house that is right next to that property.
Okay.
Yes, and he had a lot of experiences in that area.
Okay.
He still does.
Right. Well, the point being about this is that, if somebody has any information concerning this, and you can go onto my website and read all about it, it's thorough about the Santa Fe Dahlia, bring it my way, because that's and then I guess at the end of the show we can get into a little bit of Charlie Manson in Santa Fe if we have time. But that's what I want to get into, is just not one, I say skull. There's another one, and there's other types of things all in that area. Very curious, all these things happening in this certain location.
Well, it's certainly curious. And certainly it's just bizarre how tied in and correlated, because those are very, I would think, I'm not a homicide investigator or researcher of any type, but that sounds like it is absolutely kind of the same methodology all the way through, would make you think that this is a serial experience.
Well, or something linked to it in that time era of when it happened. And you got to understand that Santa Fe, during the 1960s, and again, I'm taking a line out of my tour, but it was the Haight-Ashbury of the Southwest. You had communes all through the area in Santa Fe, and you had some icons of 1960 counterculture coming through this area, be it Charlie Manson and the Girls, to Mama Cass and the other guy, Mackenzie Phillips' father, etc. And conspiracy people are going to say that, well, the first sunshine acid, orange LSD, and this is going to be the LSD that supposedly is going to turn you into the Manchurian Candidate. In other words, for some people, for just a select few, your inhibitions are going to be dropped, and you're going to be able to do things that you regularly wouldn't do by command. And if you were on some other type of acid or LSD, you wouldn't do that. Now, they're going to say that first type of LSD was sold in or distributed at Woodstock in August of 1969, and they're going to say that it was again big. Experiment, and then there's other links to that, to what happened at Altamont in December of 1969. In other words, this LSD, this type of acid, is going to be linked to the CIA and whether you were producing it in Los Angeles, etc. And I maintain that it was first tried here in Santa Fe, because you had all this counterculture here. You had some very, very wealthy people here, and one of the things that and I disagree with a lot of people with Charlie Manson, and they're saying that he was this out of control person. No, this man was. The murders that happened there was part of a drug deal there in Cielo Drive, but there in Los Angeles with Tate and then the LaBiancas later on. But in other words, this guy had a lot of money. He was not living like a third world refugee, and he's going to be part of that MK Ultra type of program, except Charlie was too intelligent and he jumped the tracks. And MK Ultra, if you look at where Charlie Manson was, just down the cell block or down the cells from where he was, that's where you're going to have Donald DeFreeze, who started the SLA, the Sudanese Liberation Army. In other words, you're doing all this kind of stuff in the 1960s because the guys in the CIA with some FBI help are running amok. For example, like Sirhan being the, not remembering, he is the patsy for the RFK assassination. And with this, there's all these different layers of Santa Fe. And if you say, so, well, Allan, you're really, really spinning off into outer space with this. Well, mind you this, Santa Fe, with its history and with FBI, CIA involvement, is incredible. Here in Santa Fe in 1945, the key secrets to the atomic bomb, the Manhattan Project, that's where they were stolen here in Santa Fe. Back in the 1980s, the highest-ranking CIA member to ever defect to the Soviet Union, which is now Russia, that happened here in Santa Fe. You have Wen-Ho Lee with the secrets, the Los Alamos in Santa Fe, and then you have hop, skip, and a jump from Santa Fe. You have all these other types of things that are happening here in Santa Fe. The cults that happened here, be it Heaven's Gate. These are the ones that suicided in San Diego
Yes.
25 years ago. So all of this is linked to Santa Fe. Santa Fe has all of this undercurrent. In other words, of MK Ultra mayhem. And MK Ultra is going to be that type of program where you're getting
Bourne.
people. Yes, well, yeah, kind of like that, but it's going to be more to be the willing stooge or not. You mean the stooge of the person who's your controller?
Amazing. Are you there? Oh,
Yeah,
there
I'm
you
here.
are. Okay. I thought I had dropped you. That would have been tragic right here. Would be tragic anyway.
Big Brother's listening, and they just chopped us.
Well,
I
I'll
wonder
tell
what
you,
that pause was.
I have had conspiracy shows, and I have been political in my past because I'm opinionated. I'm educated and fairly intelligent enough to form my opinions, but, I don't share them much anymore. It just seems that does happen sometimes. Every so often, something gets dropped. But I wanted to just say that I don't find your ideas so far-fetched. They're very unusual things that happen. And unless you actually step back and look at a big picture, you're not aware of the correlations. And it sounds like you have done that work, probably because it fascinates you. It fascinates me. I love research. But, excuse me, I think that it's a fascinating thing. Boy, I'm just overusing that word, but it applies to come back and look at all of these things coming together on that level.
Right. In Santa Fe, what are the odds of all this happening? Atomic bomb secrets being let loose. Who was on the take, who was not on the take for this to happen, to let these things escape, to go to Joe Stalin, however you want to say, the dictator of the USSR, and his government, again, too, with the CIA and how some people were asleep at the switch, or maybe, again, too, on the take, letting this guy give all these secrets to the USSR from Santa Fe, and nobody snapped to it until he really blundered, and there was an informant from Moscow that tipped him off. They had to do something, and yet this guy is still able to escape from Santa Fe to the USSR, and that's Edward Lee Howard, the CIA mastermind. Then again, too, you have the counterculture here. You have all these cults starting here. You have mind control with LSD. And again, too, that's going to be, it's again, too, people are going to say, well, you can't do that with LSD. Well, I'm talking about a different type of, for lack of better words, a type of LSD that's going to be like something out of the story of Jacob's Ladder. It was a bad screenplay, or it had some good points, but it was really done poorly when it went to film about some type of mind control for a platoon that was in Vietnam to make them super killers. That type of thing here. So yeah, Santa Fe is one of these places which is the petri dish for for black ops.
Well, petri dish is probably a great term. So,
and then, of course, you combine that with all the paranormal here, with the energy here. I mean, okay, this is the cauldron. I mean, come on over here and do your brew, and that's what we got here with all kinds of paranormal. Again, too, this links together with everything with other things that are going on here. You have this energy, you have some sinister people, you have some sinister events, and then again, too, with how, as my late brother would say, the veil is thinning here in Santa Fe. And Patrick was right on about that. This area is you cannot find another place in the USA that's had so much mayhem, just not on the local level, but affects the whole world.
That is really something to ponder, because I didn't realize that, but we are up against a break, so we'll be right back. And you know what? This is just fantastic. I am having such a good time. Thanks. We'll have more. We will be right back, y'all, after this.
You are listening to WPHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son? What are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome!
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Paranormal Experience Radio here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We are having the most fun. I am. I hope you are too. With my guest, Allan Pacheco, who has really been so interesting. I think that this is fun. It's one of my favorite things to do. And that is talk a little conspiracy, a little paranormal, a lot of everything anomalous. I'm fascinated by the oddities. So, Allan, thank you so much for going there. I appreciate it because I know that's not something that you normally do. And it was interesting because I had no idea that all of these random acts had roots in Santa Fe.
Yeah, that's one of the things about Santa Fe with its energy and also, its location. You name it, from Days of the Conquistadores to Los Días de los Conquistadores to the Santa Fe Trail to Route 66, because Route 66 used to pass through Santa Fe, that famous highway. You name it, you get the very best, the very worst coming to Santa Fe. So when it comes to its history, when it comes to its paranormal, I mean, Santa Fe does not take a back seat to anyone. And if you're investigating this stuff or you're taking people on tours, sometimes things happen. I guess we better get back to the paranormal and ghost aspect, because I went off onto the conspiracy. But yeah, there are some places here in Santa Fe that are, how do you say, beyond belief as far as activity goes. Now, you can go X amount of times, nothing's going to happen, but then on sometimes you're going to have all kinds of activity. You can even have it in such a way so that people get tremendous chicken flesh. I mean, severe chicken flesh in one area. You got to get them on out of there. Sometimes some people have felt like as if their energy, their life force is being drained on out of them. And of course, this is in a specific haunted area. And sometimes we do come across some bad mojo, and other times it's just wow, did you see that burst of light, or did you hear something? Now again too, when it comes to the paranormal, sometimes some people or a person will hear something and other people will not hear anything, and I was always skeptical to that until it happened to me. And then when I heard something and nobody else did, and so different places. It all depends upon a person's energy, and like I told before, your spirituality, what you can encounter on your safari with me. And I would imagine with safari with anybody, be it in Charleston or New Orleans or wherever you're going to go to.
Well, I do have a friend who owns a tour company in New Orleans. She is a voodoo priestess, and she's actually billed as the voodoo queen of New Orleans. And so you're right, it is everywhere.
Okay. And is her name Marie?
Her name is Bloody Mary.
No, I was going to say Marie Laveau, the
Yes, but she's gone. Well,
yeah, I know, but
she's not. If she's walking, you don't want to see her.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe she's going to take the moniker of her. No, I've heard of this woman before, and she takes them down to the St. Louis No. 5 cemetery to Marie Laveau's crypt there.
She does. She actually does the full cemetery area. She does the oh my gosh, I cannot remember the name of that area, but it's where the slaves were able to go and have their social life and do their religious practices and stuff such as that, and to City Park, which is kind of a neat thing. And she's opened a museum, free advertising, Mary, yes. But anyway, she has opened a fabulous museum. Okay. It used to be the Rampart Street Murder House.
Yeah,
it's
one
cool,
of the things
but people that I'm sorry. I
yeah,
just think people that do what you do are amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, one of the things that I mentioned Marie Laveau is because people sometimes bring her on up. And for those that do not know about Marie Laveau, she was this free woman in, well, I guess she's mulatto, free woman in New Orleans, and she was the voodoo queen there. And then, fascinating woman. And I've written about her in one of my books, and of course with my books you can get them on Amazon. But let's get back to Santa Fe Paranormal. And you had some more questions there for me there, Kat? You wanted to, because I was straying too much?
You were not straying too much.
Okay.
You know, that's one of the things that I like, is that this is just such a free flow of information. I used to think that I wasn't doing it right because I didn't have the, send you the questions and you send me the answers kind of thing, but I like the conversational flow, so I'm good with this. Okay. And that's why we get to things that you don't normally talk about sometimes. But I do have a question, because I am fascinated by, good heavens, I'm interested in the giant rock experience. I used one of the photos of a UFO that was a picture taken, I can't even remember what year that was off the top of my head. I think
it was 58 or 59.
Right in that era, yes. And then people going back almost like pilgrimages.
Right.
Can you let our listeners know some more about that?
Yeah. Okay, well, there's this giant rock out in the middle of the Mojave Desert, and it has more crystal than possibly any rock in the world. Now the Indians, they're 1700s, 1800s. They used to have their ceremonies there and try to be talking at getting some type of energy from another dimension, another world there. And this giant rock is in Landers, California. And because of crystal is some type of conduit that we do not understand. And for example, with mirrors in an old house, sometimes people feel like there's something coming through that mirror looking at them. And some people use crystal as some type of amplifier for when it's doing ghost hunting, and we use it in computers, and we use it in watches. We don't understand it, but it works. So you have this gigantic rock out in the middle of nowhere. So then in the early 1950s, up until I'm going to say maybe, I think the last one may have been, the early 70s, I guess it was when it stopped, maybe 70, around there, but then there was some that maybe started 76, 78. They had these big conventions, and it would be a UFO convention, and the guy who was running it, his name was George Van Tassel, and Van Tassel had been one of the key men for Howard Hughes, and Howard Hughes the millionaire, and he had some inside information supposedly about this place, and he had been contacted by an alien there, and he had these people that would these UFO conventions. These were for lack of a better phrase, because everybody knows about Woodstock in '69. These were the UFO conventions that were Woodstock. People would go on over there and camp on out, and you have all these different speakers from the 50s into the 60s going there and talking about ufology there. And there was a dirt airfield by this place that Van Tassel had built, and you could fly your Cessna on in there. And also, Van Tassel, close to this in Landers, he had built this machine called, what was it called? The graviton, or let me think how I'm really messing on up the word to it. But in essence, this was this huge room, or this huge building that would rotate on the top. So in other words, you'd be like a silo type of dome on top of it, and it was going to be powered by electricity. And he was 90-some%. This building was 90-some% completed, and then he died. And again, too, that says, well, he died in 1978 in a hotel room before he was going to tell the world how this thing worked. Supposedly he had gotten the information of this device from some contact with an alien, and through this, with the electricity surging through this building, and with the top of this building spinning, this like a rounded hockey puck, you would be able to do all kinds of things with your body, recharge yourself with electricity that was flowing through that. And that's close to this place called the Giant Rock. And at this Giant Rock, you had people every now and then people would photograph things, see things. There was that one photo that you did put onto the teaser. Kat here did put onto the YouTube something about this show, and again too, it's going to be on my website, Santa Fe Ghost and History Tours. That photo of that UFO was not seen with the naked eye. Later on, when the film was developed, you got this UFO there, and that's one of the things that would happen there at this place, at that Giant Rock. And it was not one of these places. We sure you had some charlatans that were there, but this was back in the time when, like what radio, what podcasts are today. It's not going to be mainstream propaganda from CNN. This is people looking for answers, people bringing questions, and that's what these UFO conventions were at the Giant Rock. And and then after this, where that huge boulder was. And I mean, it's the biggest boulder, they say, in the USA. I mean, it's this huge boulder out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's huge, and it's cracked, and now it's broken. And I got some photos of that. And this broke on
and
2000.
it broke oddly too.
Yeah. On February 23rd, 2000. I don't know if that's some significance there, but that's when it broke.
And if people go and look at these pictures on your website, it's the George Van Tassel page. It's just amazing. I mean, you have people out there. It looks like if somebody were filming the movie Contact, it looks like a 70s crowd.
Yeah.
You've got the Airstreams and others, and the cars are really classic, but that's exactly what it looks like, was the scene from the movie Contact. They had to take that from there.
Right, and these, and the black and whites to go back to the 1950s there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, too, I mean, there's, different people that have been shut on up, and who knows what happened to their files once they died, but people were doing research back in the 1950s would go on over there and speak. I'm trying to think of the lady's name, Coral, and I forgot her last name, and she was here in New Mexico and went to Arizona. What happened to her files? This was before MUFON, or before, in essence, Black Ops got people on into some of these organizations to make them look like all these people are psychotic or delusional. And of course, you did have some delusional people showing on up there. But this machine that that George Van Tassel built, the Integratron, as again too, it was supposedly he had a meeting with some type of alien. I know that sounds kind of strange, but he was given this information, and some people are saying he's a con man. But if you look at what electricity can do, and beams of energy, and what electricity is, and you get into the paranormal aspect of different ghostly energies, and what kind of energies they have, what are the sounds of these energies here. In other words, the music of the spheres, and what this is all about, and what is mind control. For example, you go into that type of bump, 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 kind of like what you have with different forms of acid rock or of rap music. In other words, that's to end on up putting you into a state of lower level of demonic, of what you're going to hear a lot in prison, that type of music, where then you're going to go to a higher level of music, like the old NBC orchestra of the 1950s with the scales, wah, 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 and that's going to put you more into an ESP type of, or a better energy. And same thing with electricity, how you're going to be doing it, and with the hertz. So there's all kinds of things that Van Tassel was onto. So he wasn't the crackpot that a lot of people say that he was. And again, too, you go into other types of things about just what kind of information did Howard Hughes have. One of the things about Howard Hughes is, and maybe somebody has, I doubt it, but he had his own TV station in the 1960s in Las Vegas, Nevada, and this before Las Vegas became the sprawl. And he would call on in, from his suite at the Sands and say, "Play this movie. I don't like this movie. I'll put this other movie on." But in other words, he had so much money he could do whatever he wanted. And there's one, he had some UFO footage, and there was some UFO footage that was put on the air that who knows what happened to it. But if anybody has anything, I mean, from 8mm, 16, well, I guess it wouldn't be 16mm back then because it'd be 8mm. If they have that or know where I could get hold of that, this is stuff from the Gemini program, give me an email so I can get that information. There is stuff on out there. The government does not want you to know that there is other life out there, and don't be conned by other people that are going to say, "Oh, this life out there in space, it's warm and fuzzy." No, there's different alien species on out there. There's different craft on out there, and a lot of them look at Earth as they want to play dice with us. They're not creatures that have our best interest in mind. Maybe there'll be one group that we haven't seen in ages, but from what we've seen here with my UFO investigations and with the missing people, with cattle mutilation here, no, these are beings that danger, Will Robinson.
That was my take on it too. I mean, I have studied this for a couple of years now, and there are a lot of people that have actually not so many who have great experiences with whatever being they're interacting with, but a large part of them do not. Yeah. And it's really something else to see, to understand that this is actually happening. There's too much of it. It's universally reported almost in the same fashion, and by people who, especially in this era, were too far out. The communities were not, close out. They were ranchers. They were spread everywhere, and they did have community, but they were just not close. It's amazing that they were coming up with the exact same experiences.
Yeah, and then you see sightings on this, and what's the the classic government type of dodge? Well, what you saw was swamp gas. No, what that other person saw was the planet Venus, and that lady, what she saw was an escaped weather balloon. No. Now, right. Where I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, when we do have UFO waves, hey, baby, we get some UFOs over here. And again, it goes to that place. This is one of these magical areas, and I say magical because of, all of the phenomena that happens here. And I maintain because of the ley lines, because there may be some type of portal or portales, plural, to the east of us. And they're dormant, they open on up, and these craft can come through. And it's going to be like something out of like the 1966 Star Trek series where, the warp hole opens on up. But with this, you can have physical type of craft, but you can also have dimensional beings, and dimensional beings, some of these are, demonic, evil type of things. And that's what you're going to go into with, lost civilizations, and something with some of the stuff that we found with the Babylonians, the Khmers, the Assyrians, what they were relating from before their time or at the beginning of their time. So in other words, we have all of this happening here in this area. And as far as UFO activity, to bring it back to Santa Fe now, when we do have these UFO waves, where there are just not one type of craft that is seen. There are different versions of craft seen here. So you say to yourself, well, does one race, does one ethnicity have all these different types of craft? Or is it different types of beings here? And then if you look at the different types of, what some witnesses have said, from the grays to praying mantis type of creature to shapeshifter type to what we haven't seen in, since the 1950s, Nordic type.
Yes.
Yeah, you have all different types coming and going. But one of the things about this is that the government is not being honest with the populace. And,
okay, I have to stop you. I am so sorry. We're going to come back with the government is not being honest with the populace. But we have to take a break. We went right through it. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. Thank you so much.
When you come on to me
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Paranormal Experienced Radio, and boy, talk about timing. The government is lying to its populace. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but you were right. That was a good place to do it if I had to.
Yes, that's the ultimate in cliffhangers there, Kat. Yeah. Well, okay. One of the things, too, about all of this as far as the government goes, and we can see it again, too, with the mainstream media when it comes to their agenda and, how wrong they are. The same thing applies to ufology. And one of the things, too, is, for example, the Green Revolution, how wacky that is. That's how wacky the government was with their Operation Blue Book. You think about that. They're going to have all these people researching UFO sightings or UFO landing or something to this effect. No, it was just a colonel and a couple of sergeants going on out there, and their job was to make the witness or the sighting, make him look like he was an idiot or he'd been sniffing glue or who knows what. And they're never going to, it could never ever be what a person said. Now, mind you, okay, at a car accident, you can have different types of people saying, I think this happened at this time, and it's always going to be a little bit off, but you're always going to be agreeing upon, you saw this car get hit by this other car. Same thing like with, a football catch. I mean, okay, you saw the guy make the catch. I mean, but what the government's going to be doing is saying, no, that did not happen. That's all part of control. It's all part of the propaganda, because you do not want the populace to start questioning that maybe there is another form of energy on out there. So if you have another form of energy, then you're not going to, and this is on the economic side of things, well, you're not going to have the elite, the Wall Street banksters controlling things. And you're going to have a brand new game there. And a lot of things as far as the control factor is going to go out the window. And That's one of the reasons you say to yourself of why UFO activity, power and control. That's what this is all about. And when a person sees something, again, too, they're going to dismiss it and try to make you look like a fool. And you've got some very, very good people there that are talking heads that will try to ridicule a person when they come forward and say, I saw this or this is what happened. And, for example, with the missing here in the area, this area here, one of the, slang words or colloquials or whatever you want to call it. Like we have Spook Lane, the Blair Witch Path. We got the Pecos Triangle. There's a place east of Santa Fe.
That is bizarre.
Where people go missing. And this is like something out of the Bermuda Triangle, not a trace, nothing found of this person.
And it's exactly if anybody like the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, and if anybody has any information on this here, ideas, email me on this here. And I don't know if we have time to go into this. I'll try to make it as fast as I can, but so that people will say, oh, Alan, this is not wind and smoke. You go onto national media, onto the Internet, and look up a man by the name of Mel Nadel. And like his wife said, people just don't disappear into thin air. But that's what happened to Mel. And that's just one person who went missing on up there. And the reason I mention Mel is because you're going to see on my website pictures of the searches, of the investigations for him, for other people on up there. And again, that website is SantaFeGhostAndHistoryTours.com. Now, this was
posted that link in chat, too.
Okay. This Mel was nobody's fool. He had a gym. He had a jewelry store, happily married, teenage daughter. This is, I'm going to say maybe 8 years ago. And he goes up to an area there in the Pecos area, and him and some buddies go hunting. And he says, go knock yourself on up. This is off of a road called Elk Road Mountain. And I'll build a blind. Well, at dusk, They come back. Mel's vehicle's still there. And mind you, and you're from Alabama, so this is going to fit perfectly. You're going to see the geography of the pictures on my website of this area.
Mm-hmm.
This area is going to be like northern Georgia. And in northern Georgia, you're going to have fields, you're going to have trails, you're going to have stands of trees, more fields. In other words, it's impossible to get lost in that area. It's impossible not to find somebody, because you know how northern Georgia is, you being from Alabama. You see my point, right?
I do.
Yeah, okay. So that's this geography
And
area where
especially
this
somebody
guy's at.
who is a woodsman.
Yeah, okay, and
He had gone
especially with the
hunting.
search that's going to follow. So so Mel's vehicle's there. There's no Mel. So they shoot off some rounds. No response. They get a big air horn. No response. Well, they go to the authorities. Eventually, start the search. You have Cessnas, Hueys. These are not the Blackhawks, Huey helicopters. Volunteers, people on horseback, tracking dogs. And they find Mel's tracks. Now I tell about this. This is a flavor of my tour, because I go into this on my tours. Now they find Mel's tracks. Mel's tracks roughly go about 110 yards away from the camp, and he just stop. In other words, he does not go back on his tracks. There's no sign of mountain lion or bear around him. There's no sign of struggle. There's no ripped clothing, no blood, no spent casings. No, nothing. Now, they searched this area, and no bone, no clothing has been found of him. None of his accounts have been touched. He just vanished. This is just one guy on up there. Now, mind you, when we've gone on up there and we've done investigations, and you can see pictures of that, there's certain areas there where it does not make sense, where our meters just scream. At this one area where Emma Tresp ended on up Tresp, like in Trespassing Tresp, where she disappeared, and we got the exact location because we found the first searchers found where her car was at, and her family left a stone angel there. And you could see the footprints around her car and nothing. She didn't go on up the road, go down the road, go to either side there. The Geiger, all kinds of other equipment we had was pegging or screaming. That's very, very rare. And as a matter of fact, there at that point, we were getting at how much rads. I'm going to go back saying that it was going to be, about 165 to 125. And it was enough. This is on the radiation Geiger counter meter that, your teeth would hurt after a while. Now at, what was it, Fukushima, whatever it's called in Japan, it's going to be 200 something on, Fukushima, you're going to have 200 something on over there. So why at that point when we were there was that happening there? I mean, did a portal open on up? What happened? Did something come out and get her? Was it a craft? Did she step into why was she even on up there? All of these questions and these things go on outside of Santa Fe. And again, too, Santa Fe, the Santa Fe Trail, Santa Fe is, another place maybe for some type of outside of town is going to be the Stargate or whatever you have there. And, of course, south of Santa Fe, you're going to have about 180-mile Roswell. We've got to the north of Santa Fe, about 25-mile Los Alamos, top secret lab with Sandia, the Manhattan Project. I'm going to say Sandia is going to be outside of Albuquerque. Los Alamos is a different lab. In other words, you've got all this stuff around Santa Fe and then in Santa Fe with the paranormal. So it's Santa Fe is goulash. It's chop suey. You name it. If it's ghosts you want after, this is the place. If it's conspiracy, if it's ufology, this place you can't top it.
And spook lights.
Yeah.
I mean, it has everything.
Yeah.
So, and that'll be for another show.
Okay.
Because I want you to have an opportunity to talk to people about your website and how to get in touch with you. And what is the best way for them to do that?
Well, the best way to do that is to go onto the website, SantaFeGhostAndHistoryTours.com, or, as I said in the past, Google, Yahoo, Allan Pacheco, Ghost Tour Santa Fe, and you'll get to it. It doesn't. I mean, I'm covered on all Bing, Yahoo,
you are covered
etc.
on everything, and TripAdvisor too, where you get some excellent reviews.
Yes. Well, thank you about that. Yeah, and so if you come to Santa Fe and you want to do a tour, well, you got my telephone numbers on the website. You've got my email, and get a hold of me, and you'll do a private tour. If you need me to do a keynote speech or talk, I do that. I also do other shows, radio shows. I do documentaries, TV, film. You need an actor, I'm your man. Let's see, what else?
Let's give them your email
Amazon.
Address.
Okay.
Give them your email
okay.
address since you've asked for information.
Santa Fe Writer at me.com. That's Santa Fe Writer, not an equestrian writer, a scribe. Santa Fe Writer at me.com. And if you haven't gotten that, just go to the website, and you're going to see it labeled all over the place, so that you're going to be able to contact me that way. Santa Fe Writer at me.com. And also on Amazon, you've got a number of my books that are listed there. You can get some off of my website, but most people like to go to Amazon and buy something there. And there you've got books that are out of publication, books that are in publication, books on Santa Fe, on national paranormal, you name it, it's there. So that's me. Again, I do history tours and ghost tours, and they're private tours, and I'll just say it's the best damn tour in town.
There you go. Haven't even been on it, and I would bet money on that. So,
thank you, Jack.
The greatest show on pavement or sidewalk.
That's right. Okay.
Well, thank you again. This has been so fascinating. I have just had fun, and I've learned a lot.
So have I, Kat. It's been a wonderful show, and you let me be free, and I know we went in all types of directions, but when you do this, I mean, the energy bubbles on out, and you get all types of paranormal aspects, and that's the best type of show.
Well, I love it because I'm very fortunate. I have great guests, and I get to learn so much. I've done this show for almost 5 years now. I have talked to some very interesting people. Present company, right up there with fascinating. I'm going to just use that word one more time tonight. That you were.
Thank you.
But it has been so much fun and so informative, which is what people look for. And I am going to let our listeners know how much we appreciate you, whether you're listening to this live or Memorex. And if you're old enough to know that, you are my generation. But podcast or live, we always have great information, and we appreciate every single one of you. I know it's getting nice. I know the weather's amazing. Just go ahead and check us on Spreaker, check us on iHeart, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, Spotify. Oh my goodness, Podbean. We're everywhere. Kind of like Visa. We're everywhere you want to be. And I will be back. Let's see, we've got a whole week lineup for you. We have Denise Pridemore, and we have Clarissa and Jax. Clarissa and Jax are tomorrow night. They are Periscope Uncensored. Friday is going to be a great Tesla show, my hero, with the Paraversal Universe. Then that will be followed by Shelley Burke-Robertson with Ghost Talk Radio with 187 PI, followed by Seraphine Hurley, Trip in the Void. I will be back on Sunday with Fate Mag Radio. You know that's going to be awesome. We have so much fun stuff happening. Denise Pridemore is going to be on vacay next week, so her show will be a best of. And I'll be back on Wednesday for another episode of Paranormal Experience with Kat Hobson. Thank you again, and y'all just go out and be the change you want to see, because that's how we make it better. Take care. Have a great week.